Hi folks, and welcome back to Fishing with Den. Well, if you've been watching this series on me making my new match fishing seat box over the past few weeks, you'll have seen me make all of these various attachments as well. And today we're going to be making this one, which I call the sort of general purpose rod rest. If I just put that down for a second. Fully adjustable, it can go right up like that, or it can go right down like that, and of course everything in between. And the other thing is, obviously, you can take this out and it's something you can store away in a bag if you need to. Of course, if you want to, you can just store this exactly as normal in a hold all or something, but I just thought I'd give myself a bit of space to manoeuvre. Now, of course, I also use this on my little ultra lightweight tackle box, which I use when I'm walking down a river, when I just take a small box of tackle and one rod. So this is going to come in really handy for that. So in order to go through the parts list for this new fully adjustable rod rest, I'm going to just use this old version of my rod rest just to sort of equate one part to another. Let's have a quick look at that. So if I put this down here like that, you can see you've got the upper and lower brackets, you've got the top support arm and the lower support arm, and you'll notice that this one is actually shorter than that because I'm trying to make this into a little one that I can insert an adjustable rod rest into. Then I'll have movement on the rod rest here, but also extension out here. And that's for when I want to go river fishing and really have it up in the air. As for these two centre brackets here, the lower one is made of 60mm section of 25 by 25mm tube, but this is only 1.2mm wall thickness. This upper section, all I've done is taken a section of the 1.6mm version of this and just chopped off the top of it to make it a channel, like that. That will sit on to here, and then the arm will travel through it. At the end, and I haven't cut this yet because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do on this one, I'll probably end up doing this sort of thing as well. It's just another piece of this square aluminium, exactly the same thing, just fitted on and then with a threaded insert, as you can see here. Okay, so really at that point that's the basis of the rod rest itself, but you'll also notice I've got this thing here. Again, this bracket, these two brackets here only have 16mm holes in them. If I wanted to, I could have made those brackets out of the 38mm by 25 by 2mm aluminium that we've been using quite a lot, and that basically would have just effectively just been a short version and gone on like that. It just makes it a bit bulky, and I've decided that I want to be able to move it around on things, so I'm going to do what I've been doing on my old box for a while. Now this is going to sit on one of the forward legs, or indeed even on the front leg of the box itself, and then this will go on like that, trying to hold it all together. It'll nip up and then I can adjust, as you can see here. I just fancied doing it that way because I want a bit more functionality of mine, but as I say, if you want to, you can just make these brackets out of this 38mm by 25 by 2 aluminium stock. I'm going to start off by making these two brackets, the upper and lower brackets. These blocks that I'm using are 75mm long, and you can either do an initial drill there and then just use a hacksaw to cut it out, or if you've got a table saw like I have, you can choose the method I've been using lately, which is to run the saw through and just create a more square hole. There's a couple of other ways of doing it, but it's entirely up to you. I'll also be drilling 16mm holes for the threaded inserts, Should be able to see better that way. And then after that, we'll be able to get on with making the sliding bracket here. So I've cut the slots to make these two wings. Did that on the table saw, but as I say, there's a number of other ways to do this, so it's up to you how you achieve the aim. I've also drilled the 16mm holes with a step drill, and I also took the time to drill a hole at the side here to take my threaded insert. Now, my threaded inserts, if you've been watching this series, I bought these years ago. I had them made up by an engineering workshop, and they just basically slot in and then screw down. You won't have that facility, so the idea would be for you to use these 6mm riv nuts. I talked about them before, and I'm not going to go through exactly how you fit them now, because as before, I've actually done a 2 or 3 minute video showing you exactly how to fit these things. So there'll be a pop-up coming up now, and also I'll put a link in the description box down below to show you how to fit them. The final procedure on these brackets is to drill a 6mm hole through here, as you can see, and I'll probably go about something like 12mm centres to get me to that point. You do need to be very careful and just use gentle pressure when you're just drilling through this top one here, like that, because you've only got the thickness of 1.6mm, and it can bend a little bit, so nice sharp drill, very gentle pressure. Now the brackets are complete, I can drill the hole through the upper and lower arms so that they fit inside. Now be careful that you don't drill too far in, because if you do, when you try and move it, it's going to catch on there. So give yourself a bit of space so that this thing can move freely. I've done the 6mm holes, but it's just occurred to me, of course, that I haven't told you what the lengths of these two arms are going to be. And the reason for that is that I don't actually know. As I said at the start, this is a little bit of an experimentation. They may end up a little bit smaller than this yet, so I'll tell you that once I've decided. Just before I fit everything together, I'm just going to take some time to just round off these sharp edges here. Saves you catching yourself on them when you get up from your box. It's only a small thing, you don't have to do it, but I like to do it. And there we are. It only took a minute or two, and I just think it looks nicer anyway. So now I've just got to fit the arms to these brackets. I've just taken a 6mm bolt, did a quick test before, and it seems to require a single washer, which goes on like that, and then I can just introduce the, whoops, not like that, single washer. Little bit fiddly, as you just seen. Just push it in gently. There we are. Okay. Whew. Don't need one on the other side because it's now quite a good fit. If I show you, there's not much wobble in that. It's just enough play to make it a nice slack fit so it will move easily. And as you can see, I'm not fouling on here either. On the other side, I'm going to use a washer and a nylon locking nut. And of course the nylon locking nuts just go on, and because they've got that nylon on there, it just means that as I move this up and down, it won't come free. Don't tighten it up fully, you just want a nice slack, but not too slack fit. If you do go too far, you can always back it off again, but that seems to work pretty well. I'll do the same for the other one, and then we'll move on to the sliding section. So for this sliding section then, I'm going to take a couple of M4 bolts. I'm going to have to cut these down because they're too long, and I'm going to push it in so that the head of the bolt here comes up through and sits like that, which hopefully you can see. That will allow me enough space to get the sliding bar in, the arm at the bottom, and it'll just give me exactly the right amount of travel and enough space to make it a good fit. Well, that's the plan. I'll give that a go now. I've cut the bolts off with a hacksaw and I've drilled the holes through the two pieces. So if I can get this fitted, which is going to be fiddly, and I may need a pair of tweezers, but let's see if we can do it. And there we go. Okay, so that's got that in. Same for the other end with a quick tighten up. And if I've got this right, this will go through. If it doesn't, we're doing a bit of filing. Oh, there you go. That's actually a very, very good fit. Very pleased with that. Just taking a few minutes to fit the threaded inserts on the knobs onto the sliding bracket and to the other brackets, as you can see. I've also just set this up as a post to lean on, frankly. If I just put this down so you can see a bit better, just move that in. That should do it. Okay, so this is 150 millimeters, and that's going to act as the pole from which I use to do my testing. You can fit this through, put that over the top of the, I'll just lock that down for a second, and then this is the top arm. A word of warning, when I drilled mine, I drilled it a little bit low down here. Try and get it a little bit further up in here. It'll mean that you don't have as many problems as I did with locating the hole, otherwise it can foul those two little nuts. I put this in exactly as before with the one little washer, and then try and get this in, and then a washer and a nylon locking nut on the far side. I'll tighten that up shortly. Same for this top bracket. Put a washer on. And again, just another nylon locking nut. Okay, that'll do for now. Using this 150 millimeter distance from there to the top of this, I've locked off these two brackets here, and now I can lift this up. You can see how high this is going to go, and also obviously how low it would go. Again, if I want to now, I can lock off using that, and that's going to be a good firm fit. So I'll finish off just getting all these nuts on, and I'll chop off all the bolts, and then it's just a question of finishing the end piece here. I've cut the lower arm off fairly short. It's quite a bit shorter than the original one, so if I actually put it next to it for you, you can see that we are probably, I don't know, a good close to 200 millimeters shorter. And the reason for that is that I'm going to insert this extending bank stick which I bought years and years ago. Only a cheap one, but this will fit now into here and go all the way down, so I can lock it off quite short, or I can extend it to there, and if I need to, I can extend it further. So, to hold this in place then, we're going to fabricate a simple mechanism, and it's literally just another piece of the square tubing, 25mm square tubing, and a threaded insert, just to fit on the end of here. I'm using the 1.2mm wall thickness tubing, 25 by 25 on the sides, and I've cut myself a hole to accept a threaded insert. So that's that all finished. So all I have to do now is fit it onto the arm, just screw through, and we can take the, just screwed that in too far, just take it back a bit, take the rod rest itself, and that's it fitted. Now, in case you're wondering why I've got the knob underneath the arm here, that's because we've got the rod that's going to come across to the top of the rod rest here, and when it does, we're going to have a line sort of bellying down a little bit through here. So the last thing I want is to have this knob sitting on the top and therefore potentially fouling the line itself. So at this point I should probably finally tell you the lengths of the upper and lower arms. Now, as I said at the start, a bit of experimentation going on, but it turns out I cut this at 180 millimeters and the lower arm at 350. You don't have to have it that way. You can just have a complete length of arm with a rod rest sticking out as I used to. And that's the beauty of these things. You can build it to whatever suits you. So the final thing for me is to just show you this bracket, which is what was going to go on the bottom of here, like that. As I mentioned right at the outset, this will go onto one of the main legs, whether it be on one of the forward legs on the platform or indeed on the forward leg of the box. I'm not going to go into any detail because I've done these so many times in previous episodes. I'll just explain to you roughly what I've done. This is something like 120 millimeters long. The hole here is 25 millimeters. I've cut a slot through the table saw to make that so it can expand and contract when I put a bolt through it. And through here I've got a 16 millimeter hole. That's where this upright piece will go. And the distance from here to here on the upright is 150 millimeters, but I've made it obviously another 25 millimeters longer to accommodate this. So that's 175, call it 180 millimeters for the entire thing. I've fitted the bolt and I've locked it off with a nut on the inside to stop it turning. I've fitted the female knob on the outside, and that's what's going to squeeze the two sides of the tube together and lock it onto the leg. I've taken the 175 millimeter tube and I've just drilled a hole and put a screw in the side of it, and now we can just fit it to the actual unit itself and lock down. The only thing left, of course, is to show you what this thing looks like and how it works on the box. And here it is. As you can see, I've used the clamping mechanism on this bracket to put it on the forward leg here. I can move it side to side if I want to, but I could also just undo these knobs and I can turn that side to side as well. As I showed you before, the unit can be lifted up or dropped down to accommodate whatever sort of bank I'm on. If I just move this rod for a second, down here we can take out this shorter extension and I can use this longer one, which I think I mentioned right at the start, so that if I am fishing in a deep, very fast river, what I can do is now lift this right up and go to that angle. Now that's really extreme. No, it's actually more like a beach caster angle, but you get the idea. And the same thing applies if I wanted to take it down, because sometimes I end up sitting on a wall sort of 6 feet up, and that's a bit of a problematic one. But again, if I needed to, I could actually have that down there. Now that obviously wouldn't work because your rod would be sliding in. So you've got the ultimate amount of adjustment on this thing. It really does fit the bill for what I want. So that's it then, guys. That's my fully adjustable rod rest, which I use for mostly for Waggler fishing, actually, this one. But the beauty of it is, apart from buying the rod rest thing, all the rest of it was pretty much free. It actually was made from bits and pieces that I had left over from building the box, and so I'm pretty happy with that. Saves me 40 or 50 quid for buying one, doesn't it? So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, click the like button. If you want to subscribe, you can. And until the next time, bye for now.